Hello friends, this is Hatim Rampurawala, and in this video we will be revising the illustrations and exercise of chapter 14 of direct tax, that is planning, tax evasion and tax avoidance. In the earlier video, actually we had stopped in half, that is in chapter 10. No, it is 11. 11, that was of the deduction from the gross total income. As it was an sum based chapter, that 10th, so we would be needing a proper book and Kelsey. So though we would be doing that, but at the end, so first we will cover the entire theory based chapters, and then we will move on to the sums based chapter, that is which we had left in middle, that is 10, 11, sorry, 11, 12, 13. So we will continue from 14. From 14, I think so there are only this theory based chapter only: assessment procedure, settlement, income tax authorities and all. So we will start. uh, so in the earlier, the deduction chapter, actually we had stopped on sixth sum. So from seventh sum we will continue when we are done with this theory based chapters. uh, Chapter 14, tax planning, tax evasion and tax avoidance. So illustration 1, just we'll look into illustration 1. Yeah. Mr. Gavaskar sought a voluntary retirement from a government of India undertaking and received a compensation of 40 lakh rupees on 31st January 2019. He is planning to use the money as a capital for the business dealership in electronic goods. The manufacturer of the product requires a security deposit of 15 lakh. Okay, he is about to start a new business from that 40 lakh rupees compensation. Manufacturing of the product, manufacturer of the product requires security deposit of 15 lakh rupees, which would carry an interest of 8% per annum. Gavaskar wife is a gratitude and has worked as a marketing manager in the multinational company for 15 years. Okay, she has worked for multinational companies. She now look for a chance in change in employment. She is willing to join her husband in running the business. She expects an annual income of 5 lakh rupees. Hmm. Okay, from the business. Mr. Gavaskar would like to draw a monthly remuneration of 40,000 rupees and also an interest at the rate of 10% on his capital in the business. So the capital was would be whatever would be the capital from that 40 lakh in the 10% and the monthly remuneration of 40, and she expects an annual income uh, expects an annual income, that is annual income of the business they are stating is over here is, and 40,000 remuneration, 10% interest on his capital. Mr. Gavaskar has approached you for the tax efficient structure of the business. Okay, so we have to provide a tax efficient structure, that is tax they are asking for the tax planning thing. Discuss the various issues which are required to be discussed for formulating your advice. Computation of the income and tax liability is not required. We are just required to state our opinion, our advice, our thoughts. Mm, okay, what would be the tax planning in this case if they want to start a business? A solution: sorry, selection of the form of the organization to carry on the business activity is essential in view of a differential tax rate prescribed under the Income Tax Act 1961 and a prescribed concessions and deductions available under the act in respect of the different entities. Different entity are taxed at different rate. For the purpose of formulating an advice as to the tax efficient structure, it is necessary for the tax consultant to consider the following issues. So following issues needs to be considered. First, in case of a sole proprietorship concern, the in the remuneration paid to the proprietor is not allowable as deduction under section 37(1) as the expenditure is of the personal nature. On the other hand, in case of a partnership firm, both interest and capital on the remuneration paid to the partners are allowable as deduction. So in sole proprietor it isn't available as deduction, and in partnership we can claim subjected to the condition and the limitation laid down under 40b. The partnership should evidenced by an instrument, and the individual share of the partners should be specified in the instrument. This partnership form should be evidenced by an instrument, basically an trust partnership deed, and should and the shares interest share should be specified in the instrument remuneration, and the interest should however be authorized by the instrument of the partnership deed. These both remuneration and interest should be authorized. It should be stated in the partnership deed and paid in accordance with such an instrument. Such an interest or the salary shall be taxable in the hands of the partner to the extent the same is allowed as deduction. Perfect. The sum which is allowed as deduction will be taxed in the hands of the partner firm under which is allowed as deduction under 40b. Certain interest on the partners can be allowed up to 12% on the simple interest, while the limit of the allowability of the partners remuneration is based on the book profit. So the profit limit is based on the book profit as per 40b, and interest is 12%. As per 40b5, the partners remuneration sorry partners remuneration shall be calculated to the extent aggregate of on the first 3 lakh book profit of first 3 lakh book profit, 1 lakh 50 or 90, whichever is more, and on the balance of 60%. However, in case of however, if the firm is eligible to opt for the presumptive taxation under 44AD, if they are eligible to opt for the presumptive under 44AD, will continue. However, if the firm is eligible to opt for the presumptive taxation under the section 44AB, 8% of the gross receipt or the 6% of the gross receipt, as the case may be, would be deemed as its income. All the deduction under chapter 30, all the deduction under section 30 to 37 are deemed to be allowed. No deduction is allowable, including deduction for the partner's remuneration and the interest on the capital. No deduction is allowed, including no deduction for partners remuneration interest. It will considered as deemed to be allowed. So this was the first point, stated that if it is a sole proprietorship, partners interest, partners remuneration and partnership interest and remuneration to the partners won't be allowed. But if it is a partnership firm, it will be allowed, subjected to the limitations stated herein. And if it is it has opted for the presumptive taxation, so 8% or 6% of the gross receipt will be taxable, and no deductions, other deduction will be allowed mm, between section 30 to 37. Second point, partners share in the profit of the firm is not taxed in the hands of the partner by virtue of 10(2)(a). So this is the benefit in case of partnership firm. It is not taxed in the hands of partner, but though it is taxed in the partnership firm, if a proprietary concern is formed, the salary of Mrs. Gavaskar shall be allowed as deduction under section 37 1. So the salary of Gavaskar, that is his wife, can be allowed as deduction under section 37, and possibility of invoking 40A2 cannot be ruled out, as the salary is payable to a relative who is interested in the who is interested person within the meaning of 42A. However, it can be argued successfully that the salary of 5 lakh is justified 5 lakh is justified in view of her of a long experience as a marketing manager of a multinational company, and the fair market value of the services to be rendered by her to the concern. So this 5 lakh can be justified because, as it is stated in the question, that she had worked for a long period in a multinational companies. So though provision would be attracted if it would be an unreasonable, so but in this case it is justified. Fifth point, so these all are the consideration we need to take into account before identifying in which form we need to set up our business. or under which status we had to set up our business. An issue arises as to whether the remuneration of Mrs. Gavaskar would be includable in the total income of Mr. Gavaskar under 64.1.2. Remuneration of the spouse of an individual working in a concern in which the individual is having a substantial interest shall be included in the total income of an individual. However, the clubbing provision does not apply sorry, if the spouse possesses the technical and professional qualification and income is solely attributable to the application of his or her technical and professional knowledge experiences. Further, the technical and the professional qualifications would not be would not necessarily means the qualification obtained by the degree of the diploma of an recognized body. It is not that it means that technical or professional would not necessarily means the qualification obtained from the degree or diploma from the recognized body only. The experience of Mrs. Gavaskar as a marketing manager in the experience as well can be considered can also be considered uh, uh, for the purpose of 64 that she possesses professional skill and qualifications. That 15 that marketing man that the experience of Mrs. Gavaskar as a marketing manager in the multinational company for 15 years may reasonably be considered as a professional qualification for this purpose. If Mrs. Gavaskar joined the proprietorship concern or the partnership concern of a business, mm, as an employee, remuneration of 5 lakhs shall be taxed in the hands under the head of salary. So even though in case of partnership or proprietorship, it will be taxed under head of salary to Mrs. Gavaskar. If she joins as a partner in the business, partner, and if she joins as a partner, not as an employee, the remuneration shall be taxed in her hands as the business income under section 28. So the if she gets an income not as an in the status of the partner of the partnership firm, so it will be taxed under salary. If she is a partner and she is receiving a remuneration, and so it will be taxable under PGBP, that is business income under section 28, to the extent the remuneration is allowed in the hands of firm. So the amount which was allowed will be taxable as in business income in the hands of the Mrs. Gavaskar. The tax rate applies sorry the tax rate applies to an individual depends on the level of his or her income, where the partnership firm is at a flat rate 30%. Surcharge 12 shall be attracted only if the total income exceeds 1 crore. For an individual, the tax rate is 5 for income exceeding 2,50,000 rupees but not exceeding 5 lakh rupees, 20% for an income exceeding 5 lakh rupees but not exceeding 10 lakh rupees, and 30% in respect of an income exceeding 10 lakh rupees but for an amount. And the surcharge is as follows: that exceeding 50 but not 1, so 10%; exceeding 1 but not 2, 15% exceeding 2 but not 5, 25% and health and education says exceeding 5, it is 37% surcharge. Health and education in both the cases is 4%. So both of these things needs to be considered, that is all of these things, that is first was so actually question was discuss the various issues which are required to be considered while formulating your advice. Computation of the income tax liability is not required. So what all things which we had considered is, in first point, remuneration part to the partnership, if it is in sole proprietorship, so deduct sole proprietorship, so remuneration and interest paid expenses will not be allowed, shall not be allowed under 37. But it is a partnership firm, it will be allowed subjected to limitations, limit prescribed under 40 small b. And if it is it is opting presumptive, so it will be taxed, so the total income will be 8 or 6% of the gross receipt. Second point, the share of partnership firm is exempt under 10(2)(a) in the hands of the partner. Then proprietorship concern if Mrs. In case of a proprietary, if it was a proprietary concern, the salary of Mrs. Gavaskar shall be allowed as deduction under this much. Salary shall be allowed as deduction under section 37(1). Then possibility of invoking 48(2) would also be there, is also there, that unreasonable remuneration. But over here they have given that she has experience, So this provision won't be attracted, and even the clubbing would have been attracted, because the spouse, that is Mr. Gavaskar, has a substantial interest, and since they both are relative, so uh, the remuneration received by Mrs. Gavaskar can also clubbed with Mr. Gavaskar if she don't possesses if she didn't possesses the required qualifications. But in this case, she possesses the required qualification, hence it won't be clubbed. Clubbing provision won't be applicable, and Mrs. Gavaskar income of remuneration of 5 lakh will be taxable as under the head of salary. But if she is a partner in the business, so it will be taxable partner in the partnership. So the remuneration which she withdraws will be taxable under PG, under head of PGBP at the under section 28. Uh, Remuneration is allowed in the hands of the partner subjected to 40B, that is okay. And at the last, they have given the tax based comparison that in case of an sole proprietorship, either individual business, the limits are basic exemption with 2 lakh 50 from 2 lakh to 5 lakh 2 lakh 50 to 5 lakh rupees tax, then it means slab rate taxation, and in firm case it is 30% taxation directly. Surcharge is also different in both the cases. In firm's case, it is more if the income exceeds 1 crore, 12% surcharge. In case of partner sole proprietorship, there are various slabs, and health and education cess is compulsory. So with this, we complete that what all are the issues which we need to take into account. So we are done with this. It consumed our 16 minutes, though it was such a simple question. Now there isn't any illustration further. We will directly jump to test your knowledge. Test your knowledge, that is this exercise part. Exercise question 1: distinguish between the tax planning and tax evasion. Tax planning is carried out within the framework of the law by availing the deduction and the exemption permitted by the law, and thereby minimizing the tax liability. So it is within the permissible limit of the law and minimizing the tax liability. Tax planning is an agreement by which the full advantage is taken of the concessions. By tax planning, we take full advantage of the concessions and the benefit conferred by this statute, which are laid down in this statute. We take the full advantage of the each and every provision without violating any legal provision. Without violating, we take the benefits. Legal tax evasion, on the other hand, is an attempt to reduce the tax liability. But in tax evasion, we reduce the tax liability. We attempt to reduce the tax liability by dubious or artificial method, or downright fraud. By an illegal or artificial method, we reduce our tax liability. It is illegal and denies the state. It is illegal and denies the state its legislature, and denies its state its and denies the state its legitimate share of tax. So basically, it is stating that it is an illegal share, legitimate. It is its legitimate share of tax. Then question number 2: specify with reason whether the following acts can be considered as a tax planning, tax management, or tax evasion. So we'll directly read from the. Okay, we can't directly read from the answer. We have to see question only. Mr. P deposited 1 lakh rupees in the PPF account so as to reduce his tax. So as to reduce his total income from 5 lakh this much to 4 lakh 90,000. It is a tax planning strategy. Depositing in the PPF account and claiming the deduction under 80C is as per the provision of the law. Okay. SQL Limited is maintaining the register of the tax deduction at source affected by it, enable timely compliance, tax management, maintaining of any register of payment subjected to the TDS helps in complying with the obligation under the Income Tax Act. Then third, an individual taxpayer making a tax saver deposit of 1 lakh rupees in a nationalized bank. It is a tax saver deposit, means tax planning. Third, making a tax saver deposit of 1 lakh rupees in a nationalized bank for claiming of any deduction in the 80C by an individual is permitted tax planning measure under the provision of the income tax law. Fourth, a partnership firm obtaining a declaration from the lenders depositor in form 15G and 15H and forwarding the same to the income tax authority. It is management. Mm, Tax management obtaining a declaration from the lender. Obtaining a declaration from the lender in form 15G 15H by the partnership firm and forwarding the same to the income tax authority in the nature of the compliance of the statutory obligation under the Income Tax Act 1961. Fifth, the company installed an air conditioner costing 75,000 at a residence of the director as per the terms of an appointment, but treated it as fitted in a quality control section in the factory. This is with the object to treat it as a plant for the purpose of obtaining the depreciation. So it is illegal. Illegal in the sense it is misleading. So it is a tax evasion actually. Fifth, tax evasion. An air conditioner fitted at the residence of the director of his appointment terms of his appointment would be the furniture be a furniture qualifying for the depreciation at the rate of 10%, where an air conditioner fitted in the factory would be the plant qualifying for the higher depreciation. The wrong treatment unjustifiably increases the amount of the depreciation and consequently reduces the profit and reduces the treatment of the air conditioner fitted at the residence. Okay, the wrong treatment unjustifiably increases the amount of the depreciation and consequently reduces the profit and consequent tax liability. Treatment of the air conditioner fitted at the residence of the director as a plant and machinery at the factory would tantamount to furnishing of any false particular. So they are furnishing a false particular that even though it has been fitted at the place of the director, it has been shown that it is used in the business purpose. So false reporting with an attempt to evade the tax. Sixth, now RR Limited issued a credit note of 80,000 rupees as a brokerage payable to Mr. Ramana, who is a son of managing director. The purpose is to increase the total income of Ramana from 4 lakh 20 to 5 lakh rupees and reduce the income of RR Limited correspondingly. Mm, because over here if it has been increased from 4 lakh to 5 lakh, it will be taxed only at the rate of 5%, but if it is taxed in the hands of the company, it will be taxed at the rate of 30%. So it is tax evasion. Tax evasion and issuance of any credit note for 80,000 rupees by RL Limited as a brokerage payable to Mr. Ramana, the son of the managing director, to increase the total income from 4 lakh 20 to 5 lakh rupees and to accordingly reduces the company total income is a method of reducing the tax liability of company by recording a fictitious transaction. The company is liable to tax at the rate of 30 or 25 as the case may be, whereas Ramana Limited would not be liable to pay any tax since her total income does not exceed 5 lakh. Okay, as per the new provision, as per the amended provision, since till 5 lakh there can't be any income because of the rebate under 87A. Eligible for rebate, for which she is eligible for rebate under 12A, and reducing the tax liability by recording the fictitious transaction would tantamount to the tax evasion. Then last, company remitted the provident fund contribution of both its employees its own contribution in the employee on the monthly basis before the due date. It is tax management remitting of any own contribution to its provident fund and the employee contribution provident fund on the monthly basis before the due date is proper compliance with this depositing part is the proper compliance with the statutory obligation. Question number 3, examine the doctrine of form and the substance in the context of the tax planning. The following are the certain principle unicited by the court on the question as to whether it is the form of the substance of the transaction which will prevail which will prevail in the income tax matter. The form of the transaction is to be considered in case of genuine transaction. It is well settled that when a transaction is arranged in one Actually, what they have stated is the following are the principle enunciated by the court on the questions as to whether it is form and subform or the substance of the transaction which will prevail in the income tax matter. So first form of a transaction is to be considered in case of a genuine transaction. If a genuine transaction, it is a well settled, it is well settled that when a transaction is arranged in one form known to law, it will attract tax liability, whereas if it is entered into another form which will equally lawful, it may not. Therefore, in consideration whether the transaction attracts the tax or not, attracts or not, the form of the transaction, that specific transaction, whether that transaction attracts the tax or not. So the form in the transaction put through is to be considered and not the substance. So we have to consider the form in the transaction, form of the transaction and not the substance. However, the rules apply only to the genuine transaction. That is, we have to see the form of transaction, and this rule applies only for the genuine transaction. Moreover, with the general anti-avoidance rule coming into force with effect from 1718. Second is through legal relationship is a crucial element for taxability. So what all things we have to keep in mind, that the following are the certain principle enunciated by the court on the question as to whether the form and the substance of the transaction which will prevail over the income tax matter, which form and content will prevail over income tax. The first form and content, but it should be a genuine transaction. Second, through legal relationship is a crucial element for taxability. It is open for the authority to uh, uh, pie Piers the corporate will and look behind the legal fare of the reality of the transaction. The taxing authority is entitled as well as bound to determine the true legal relationship resulting from the transaction. The true legal relationship arising from the transaction alone determines the taxability of the receipt arising from the transaction. So over here also there should be the true legal relationship arising from the transaction should be known. Alone determines that true legal relation arising from the transaction. What is the proper actual relation between the two assessees alone can determine the tax liability of the receipt arising from the transaction. And substance, that is actual nature of the expenses, is relevant and not the form. In the given case, the expenditure, the mere fact about the payment is made under an agreement. Given agreement does not preclude the department from inquiring into the actual nature of the payment, does not preclude the department from inquiring into actual nature of the payment in order to determine whether the particular item of an expenditure is of revenue or the capital nature. The substance and not merely the form should be looked into. Okay, so this substance is relevant and not form. Through legal relationship is crucial. So 3 points we have to mug up over here in this answer. Doctrine of form and substance. Okay, first, legal transaction, it should be a genuine transaction. Then through a legal relationship is crucial for determining that element of the taxability, and substance is important and relevant and not the form. So we are done with question number 3. Question number 4: the merger of the loss making company with a profit making one result in loss, setting of profit, a lower net profit, and the lower tax liability for the merged company. Would the loss be disallowed by applying the GAR provision? Would the loss be disallowed by applying the GAR provision? So what they have stated is merger of the loss making with a profit making, whether they can do so. Yeah, they can. As per the, so we'll read the answer, and then second question and second answer. As regarding the set off of the losses, the provision regarding the merger and the amalgamation already contain specific anti-avoidance safeguard. Therefore the GAR need not be invoked when the SAR is applicable. So relating to this transfer uh, between from the loss making to the profit making, there is specific provision already in the income tax act. So gar need not be invoked. Gar and sar can coexist. So in this case sar is applicable. Okay. uh, Actually what question they had asked in first was, would the loss disallowed by applying gar? No, because sar is applicable, and actually gar and sar can coexist. Second, in the above fact, let us presume that the profit making company merged with the uh, merged merges with a loss making one. This result in the loss setting of profit. So what is the case? In first case was the merger of the loss making with profit. So loss company is merging with profit making. So yeah, they can merge. And but in second case, the profit making is merging with the loss making company. This result in the loss setting of profits, the lower net profit and the lower tax liability for both companies taken together. Can it examine under the car? In case of the merger of the profit making company with the loss making company, there is no specific SAR anti avoidance safeguard. However, since such a merger would be under the high order of the high court, gar would not be invoked if the high court has explicitly and adequately considered the tax implication while sanctioning the merger scheme. Okay, so if there is no specific SAR per se, SAR is in relation to when the loss making is getting merged with the profit making, but when the profit making is merged with the loss making, there isn't any SAR. But in this arrangement, the order of the high court will state, the high court may state explicitly the treatment for this. See, we'll read it again. However, since the merger would be under the order of the high court, the gar would not be invoked. If gar will not be invoked, because if high court has taken the case of this matter, high court has explicitly high court has dealt with this matter. If the high court has explicitly and adequately considered the tax implication, if the high court has considered the tax implication of that merging of profit making with loss making, so there will be no need of gar as well. There is no SAR. But if high court has considered that matter and tax implication while sanctioning the merger scheme, so gar would not be invoked. Question number 5. And how many questions are still there? There are 7 in all, and 3 left. Question number 5. A choice is made by the choice is made by a company acquiring an asset on a lease over a straight purchase. The company claims the deduction for the lease rental in case of any acquisition through the lease rather than depreciation, as in case of the purchase of an asset. Would the lease payment being higher than the depreciation be allowed as an expense under gar? So what is the case over here is, the company is a choice is made by the company by acquiring the asset on a lease over over right out purchase. Hmm. So what they have done is acquire on lease, and they are making a lease payment, but they are not claiming the depreciation. The company claims depreciation for lease. The company claims the depreciation for the lease rental. Okay, they are claiming the deduction for the lease rental rather than for the depreciation. So would the gar be invoked? In short, okay, would the lease payment being higher than the depreciation be allowed as an expenses under gar? Gar provision would not apply in this case, as the taxpayer merely makes a selection out of the option available to him. It is much simpler stated that it is an option available to the assessee whether to claim the lease rental or to acquire an asset in his name, legal to acquire the legal title and claim depreciation instead of lease rental. So it is an option, so gar won't be involved. So we had done 5 questions. We quickly revise. In first illustration, what we had done is, we had an strategy, a company that Mr. Gavaskar and Mrs. Gavaskar, they are starting. So they had said to evaluate the uh, as an tax consultant, they had asked our advice. So we had stated it would be better if they whether it would be better to form a partnership firm or the sole proprietorship. We had discussed various issues like tax implications, like deductions. Okay, when taking a deduction, in what nature, whether clubbing provision would be affected, whether there would be any disallowance, what would be the tax liability in case of presumptive, then how the salary of the or the remuneration of Mrs. Gavaskar would be treated, whether 48(2) would be attracted in that case. So that we had discussed in the exercise part. Question number first, there was just a comparison of tax planning and tax evasion. Tax evasion is uh, evading the law itself, means it is an illegal act, and tax planning is within the boundary. We are uh, we are obtaining the benefit, that is, it is an arrangement by which a full advantage is taken of the concessions and the benefit within the four corners of the law. In second question, it was simple that we had to just bifurcate, distinguish tax planning activity, tax management activity, and tax avoidance. So we are done. In question number 3, it was given the doctrine of the form and the substance. So in this, we had to memorize 3 points. That is the form of the transaction. It should be considered in case of genuine transaction only. Form of the transaction, if we are considering form, that is form of the transaction is to be considered in case of genuine transaction only. Second, true legal relationship is crucial element for the taxability. So first was, in genuine form can be accepted only in case of genuine transaction. Then through legal relationship is crucial for taxability. Proper legal relationship we should be knowing for the taxability, and substance is important and not the form. So these 3 points we had to mug up. Then in fourth illustration, it was much simple that when merging the loss making with profit making, there is a specific SAR. So GAR can't be invoked, but GAR and SAR can coexist. And in the second part of the question, they had asked that profit making is merging with this loss making. So there isn't any specific provision in companies. There isn't any specific provision that is for the SAR. But while sanctioning the scheme, if the High Court has taken dealt the matter with relation to the taxability, so GAR also cannot be invoked, because High Court has taken care of the taxability part. That is, if the High Court has explicitly and adequately considered the tax implication while sanctioning the merger, so GAR won't be invoked. And in fifth, we had seen that if there are two options available to claim, either to claim lease rental or to claim depreciation, so it is an option of an SSC, and in this case GAR cannot be invoked. Because sixth question, Mrs. Global Architecture Inc. is a company incorporated in country F. It is engaged in the business of providing architectural design services all over the world. It receives an offer from Lovely Resort Private Limited, an Indian company, for the design and the development of the resorts all over the India. India F1 tax treaty provides for that the architectural services are technical services, and the payment for the same may be taxed in India. So actually the global based was of country F1, and it is engaging Lovely Resort Private Limited, an Indian company, for designing the resorts all over India. So that they had offered that they are acquiring the services from the Lovely Resort Private Limited, for developing and designing the resorts all over India in India. Then F1 country, there is a treaty with F1 country that provides that the architectural services are the technical services, and the payment for the same may be taxed in India. However, if the professional services are services by the firm, or however, if the professional services are provided by the firm or an individual, then the payment for such a services are taxable only if the firm has a fixed base in India, or stay of a partner employee is in India exceeds 180 days. So yeah, there are two bifurcations. First is that there is a treaty in F1 that provides for the same to the company may be taxed in India. So this architectural services and technical services and the payments for the same are taxed in India. However, if the professional services are provided by the firm or an individual. So if rather than the Lovely Resort Private Limited being a company, if it had been provided by the a firm for an individual, for example, Mr. X would have been providing this designing and development services, or a HUF, that is where it is given, yeah, in the third paragraph, that no, sorry, in second paragraph. However, if such a professional services are provided by the firm or the individual, so in case of an individual, yeah, or the firm, then the payment of such a services are taxable only if such a firm has fixed base. So if that firm or individual, so only if that fixed that only if that firm has a fixed base in the India, or only if that firm has a fixed base in India, or fixed base in India, or stay of a partner employee in India is 180 days. Mrs. Global Architecture Limited (INC) forms a partnership firm with a third party having any nominal having a nominal share having the nominal share in country F1, nominal having then only a nominal share in the F1. The firms enter into an agreement to carry out the services in India. So they are providing the services in India as well. The company seconded its training manpower to him. The company seconded its training trained manpower trained manpower to the firm. The so as they again the firm allocates skilled trained manpower to the firm. Thus the partnership firm claimed the treaty benefit and no tax was paid in India. And in this case, what happened is that they had claimed the benefit and tax was not paid in India. Can such an arrangement be examined as per GAR? It is obvious that there was no commercial necessary to create a separate firm except to obtain the tax benefit. So in the above case, they had created a separate firm, but there wasn't any requirement. The firm was only on the paper, and the manpower was drawn from the company. The firm did not have any commercial substance. And it was just a shell firm. Moreover, it is the case of the treaty abuse. Hence, the GAR may be invoked to disregard the firm and the tax payment on the architectural services of the fees or the technical services. However, the rate of the tax on such a payment shall be applicable under the treaty if more than beneficial. So, however, the rate of the tax on such a payments which they had made, such a payment shall be applicable under the treaty if more beneficial. Okay. Illustration 7: An Indian company Holdco borrowed 10 crore rupees for the acquisition of the share of the SUDCO, which then becomes a subsidiary of the Holdco. Okay. Indian company, what they did is, holding company Holdco, Indian holding company Holdco. It is an Indian company which then becomes the subsidiary for acquisition of the share, borrows 100 crore rupees for the acquisition of the share of the SUDCO. Okay, what that Indian company does is borrow money and then invest in the share SUDCO, which was then became the subsidiary of Halco. Halco and SUDCO Limited amalgamated, so that the interest payable on such a money is borrowed to the so the interest payable, the one interest which they are about to pay for the borrowed money to acquire share, can be deducted in computing the income from the business of the amalgamated. The borrowings by the holdco company by the amalgamation of the SUDCO is not abusive, and the GAR would not be applicable in this case. The merger, which is carried out under the order of the High Court. So over here they have given that since this is being carried out under the order of the High Court, GAR cannot be invoked. That Holdco and Subco amalgamate, so that Holdco and SUDCO is it is borrowed this much to acquire the share in SUDCO. Holdco and SUDCO amalgamate, so that the interest payable on the monies borrowed to acquire the share can be deducted in computing the income from the business can be deducted in computing the income from the business of the amalgamated. Okay, over here they are given that they are, since they had borrowed 10 crore, on that they had to pay interest, so that deduction of the interest can be beneficial because that would result into the reduction of the tax liability. So in that case, when in that case, so that the interest payable on such a money borrowed to acquire, that money was borrowed to acquire the share, can be deducted in computing the income from the business of the amalgamated. And the borrowing of any holdco followed by the amalgamation by this holdco is not abusive and GAR would not apply in case merger which is carried out under the scheme of High Court. GAR would not apply if scheme is being carried out under the order of the High Court. So we are done with this chapter. Thank you for watching the video.